Good evening, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I have 3 questions, and you have indicated that you're going to answer a couple of them, and one you already have.
All right. Nothing like efficiency.
Yes. Could I refer to the Sri Yantra?
Yes.
It has been, the circle around it has been, the mathematics of that circle have been used as a basis for creating music based on the 7 triangle, the
Yes.
9 triangles.
Yes,
of that.
9. Yes, all right.
And I would assume that that has great power in the way you've been speaking now.
Yes, and it correlates to the 9 levels of regular polyhedra that we have already discussed and described. Each of those triangles correlates to each of those polyhedral levels and evokes from them their specific and unique vibrational resonances. In that you can use them all together, that is a master set. And in using all of those vibrations together as a master set, you can really unlock something powerful. And so this is why, in ancient times, it was understood, and this is a technique and an art that has to some degree been forgotten, the idea of the designing of mantras and yantras were for a shorthand encodation into gleaning and activating those specific resonant frequencies all at once in the proper and appropriate relational harmonic chord that would activate them all simultaneously. It's like a shorthand version of what we are doing in this overall process description today. So, anything that has to do with meditational utilization in yogic practice or chanting practice of those mantras and yantras will to some degree also be an accelerative way to utilize much of the information that we will be discussing today, because they are all correlated in ancient times, and you can use them that way now when you understand what you're doing.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening.
And to you, good day.
It is, thank you. How do we go into and access the different realities?
All right, again, to some degree, we will experience a little bit of this later, but to give you a little bit of a foundation, let us go back to the description we have already given of the Earth-Mars connection and the 2 interpenetrating, counter-rotating tetrahedron, one pointing up, one pointing down. You follow?
Yes.
All right. If you will, to some degree, imagine those 2 tetrahedral structures, one pointing up, one pointing down, counter-rotating, slowly, gently, smoothly, within each other. The idea will be that if you approach this from a particular point of view, let us say that you imagine that you move into it and into the center of it, so that in looking up, you see part of the structure turning. Looking down, you see another part of the structure turning. Standing still, looking ahead, you see the intersections merging, demerging, remerging with each other. If you learn how to perceive these things, and this is why sometimes visual aids can be of benefit. In other words, now especially, you have the ability to create what you would call animations or computer graphic animations that will help you visualize these things. But if you can do that, then the idea is that you will begin to perceive that each and every variant, each and every intersection, each and every blending, each and every crossing will itself be like a different tone or a different key on an instrument. You will begin to gravitate toward those particular patches or areas that to you represent the strongest correlation or synchronization with your original intention, which is to be your fullest self. So your original intention to be your fullest self will help you gravitate toward those areas of vibrational resonance that will open up doorways that are most specifically already and automatically designed to bring you the information that will help you with that fundamental idea or intention. You follow? Yes, no, maybe?
Partially. I could use a little more.
All right. Let's simplify this example.
Thank you.
Let us imagine that you have your spectrum in front of you. You have your red moving into your orange, into your yellow, into your green, into your blue, into your indigo, and into your violet. Have you got that?
Yes.
All right. Are you, for any reason whatsoever, whether you know the reason or not, attracted to any one area on that spectrum more than any other?
Yes.
All right. What area did you gravitate toward first?
Violet.
Pure violet or a shade in between? Where are you in the violet? Are you toward the indigo? Are you purely in the violet?
Toward the indigo.
All right. This then is an indication to you that your strongest fundamental desire is for the specific reaching and integrating with the higher self, the higher soul understanding, the higher soul point of view, that overview. This is what this is generally indicative of as your fundamental intention at that particular moment. Do you follow this analogy?
Yes. I'm hearing music.
All right,
as I
very
see
good.
This thing go around.
Very good, very good. What are you hearing? Can you describe it?
Tones,
Yes.
not a particular song, but just little
Tones,
sounds.
yes. All right.
As each
Very
thing
good.
turns, it makes a specific sound.
Very good. This, again, as we have said, will be part of the idea, part of the experience. It will be vibration in some form or another, and you will find the chord that represents you, and it will pull you. You will gravitate to those sections that will be at that moment, not that they won't change later, but at that moment, most strongly synchronized with your highest intention. And in that, in letting yourself be immersed, here's the key. Just as you let yourself be attracted to the violet, and you let yourself go into it, let yourself be attracted and let it overwhelm you. Let it go through you. Let it wash through you. Let it immerse you. Let it surround you. Let it completely engulf you. And that will be the state. That will be the frequency at that moment. That then, if you open up your imagination, if you open up your inspiration, if you open up your creativity, if you open up your heart at that moment, you will start to receive feelings, information, pictures, insights, visualizations, sounds, all the things that are germane specifically to the vibrational frequency and the tools and the ideas and bits of information that are most conducive, if you will use them and apply them, to being your fullest self at that moment. You follow?
Thank you.
That's how to use this in general. And again, we will go through this in the exercise meditation at the end, but you are beginning to get
Yes.
the point.
Yes.
All right.
I like that very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Number 11.
Yes.
Will the
Now,
Tesseract...
one moment.
Oh, pardon?
Before you go on, it is critical. Critical.
Yes.
Not just for you, all of you. Critical that you understand. When we say that you can really go into these shapes, when we say give yourself whatever assistance you can by building these shapes, by creating computer animations of these shapes, whatever you can do to enhance your ability as strongly as you can to fully feel the fullest form of the experience of being engulfed by these shapes and all of the nuances within them. Whatever you can do, do it. And I mean do it. You will find, and this may not seem at first to make a difference, but it will. You will find that if you hold back even one iota in expressing your full creative ability to simulate or manifest some kind of environment as best as you can that would give you the strongest sense of actually interacting with these shapes. If you hold back one iota, you may find that one iota can actually be the difference between achieving the desired effect or not achieving it at all. This is heavily reliant on your willingness to fully explore and actively experiment in creating the environment in all ways you can. In other words, you need to immerse yourself. You need to, in a sense, almost overwhelm yourself with these shapes. Now, I do not mean the following in a negative way, but just to illustrate the point of how strongly this needs to be infused within your energy for the purpose and for the duration and for the timing that you want to achieve an effect, that you want there to be an effect. You must become obsessed in all ways, shapes, and form you can with creating these shapes. Cut them out of paper, cut them out of cardboard, make animations, make drawings, make sounds that go with them, get music, get color, get light, get everything, every ingredient. Otherwise, it will be like baking a cake and leaving out an ingredient. It's not going to rise, or it's not going to taste like you want it to taste unless you have everything there. So, one of the strongest things in using what we are going to talk about is not only the idea of just meditating and just seeing it, but really filling your world with these shapes until they are so second nature. Here's the key: until they are so second nature, you start to dream about them. When you start to dream about them, when you start to think in them, then you will be speaking the higher dimensional language. And when you can speak the higher dimensional language, you will understand when the higher dimensional language is spoken to you. It's just like what your people say about learning any other language. When you start to think in the other language, that's when you really know how to speak the other language. Up to that point, you are to some degree fluent, but up to that point, you're simply kind of mimicking. It's not in your blood. And therefore, you may have a little bit of difficulty understanding someone else when they speak that language very quickly. You have to say, slow down, I didn't quite get that. I'm not following you. I can't think that fast. When you start dreaming of these shapes, when you start breathing these shapes, when you start thinking in these shapes, then when the messages from the higher dimensions come through these gates and shapes to you, you will automatically know how to translate them back into the language of your physical reality that will make it clear how to apply the information. Does that make sense? This is one of the most important things we have to tell you about how to utilize anything and everything that we're going to talk about in this transmission. Do you all get the point?
So you're saying total immersion, like learning a language?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Now then, by all means, do continue.
All right. Will the Tesseract help put us permanently into the fourth dimension?
In a sense, yes. Although, again, it will remind you, you will remind yourself through it that you already exist in the fourth dimension. And therefore you'll become used to knowing you already exist in the fourth dimension, and you can utilize these tools to help you remember that, yes. And permanency, again, has to do with choice and intention. Why wouldn't it be permanent? Unless there is some reason why you wouldn't want it to be. And if there is some reason why you wouldn't want it to be, then it's your reason, and that's all right too. But the point is that they will not have the power to do anything. They will be used by you to remind yourself that you are already there permanently. And if you know that, then there will be nothing to take you away from there, because being there will always be your choice. You follow?
Yes.
Remember, it's not a matter of slipping out of something. You never slip out of anything. You choose to go where you go, consciously or unconsciously. You may call the unconscious choice a slip, but it isn't really a slip, and that's one of those definitions that would be helpful for you to change. Because as long as you believe you can slip, then you'll experience an unconscious choice as a slip. You won't know it's a choice, it'll remain unconscious, and you will never give yourself the opportunity to know that it is a choice that you can change. Make sense?
It does.
Thank you.
Thank you. One more.
Yes.
Will fourth dimension reality perspective enable us to better access other levels of reality and dimensions?
You already know the answer to that one.
Okay.
Does being on the fourth rung make it easier to get to the fifth?
Absolutely.
Then you know how to climb a ladder, and your question answers itself.
Okay.
Because if your definition of fourth dimensional or fourth density reality is that it has a broader perspective, is that it allows you to see more information, then would not more information make it easier to see yet more information?
And so on and so on.
And so on and so on. So, yes, and without in any way, shape, or form meaning any judgment or offense whatsoever, but just to illustrate a point to you, perhaps to help drive it home, that was a very third density question.
Okay.
You follow?
Yes.
To wonder whether or not being on a higher level will allow you to see farther is the kind of doubt or trust in realities that don't work for you that we were talking about before.
This is very familiar.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bashar, is this a form of time travel?
In a sense, yes, it can be utilized in a variety of ways that will allow you to interpenetrate what you would call time streams. However, you must understand something very important about the concept you have on your planet of so-called time travel. First of all, again, number one. Everything and everywhere and every when is here and now. All times, in other words, coexist simultaneously. Does that make sense to you, first of all? All right. So, again, let's fine-tune the definition. Are you really traveling when you don't really go anywhere? No. What are you doing? You're changing your point of view. You're changing your perspective vibrationally. Then you can have an experience of another stream of space and or time and space. Then, in a sense, you could call that euphemistically time travel. But in fact, it's actually more real to say that it's traveling through you than you traveling through it. Because you are the modulator, and the frequencies are shifting within you. Therefore, time, in a sense, is traveling through you. You're not traveling through it. Does that make sense, second of all? All right, now, here's something else to understand, and this is a little bit of a linear perspective of time travel in the sense of going back, quote-unquote, into your own past, quote-unquote. Are you with me? This is what you would call your quote-unquote classic science fiction time travel scenario. So, now, did you, I'm going to ask you, you personally, the questioner, a question, if I may. All right. Let us say you were going to decide to travel back one day, 24 of your hours in time. All right? All right. Now, do you remember what you were doing 24 hours ago, roughly? Pick
Yes.
something roughly that you did yesterday.
Yes.
All right. Now, can you give us a general idea of what you were doing?
Yes, I was cooking preparatory for tonight.
Cooking. All right. Were you in your or someone else's kitchen?
Yes, mine.
All right. Now, let us say you now decide to go back to that point
Yes.
in time. All right?
Yes.
All right. Do you remember being in your kitchen?
Yes.
All right. You remember generally what you were doing, yes?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember seeing another version of yourself anywhere in your kitchen at the same time?
No, I wish I had. Okay.
Do you?
No.
All right. Then, understand this. You cannot go back to that kitchen because you didn't. Do you understand? You weren't there twice. So you can't go back there because going back there is not a part of what you already experienced when you were there. If you did go back, you would have already, yesterday, experienced another you in the kitchen. You follow me so far?
Yes, I got it.
So, when you do go back, so to speak, into the past, into the kitchen that you were in 24 hours ago, you will not be going to the same kitchen. You will be going to the kitchen of another parallel reality you. Do you understand?
Yes.
And that you will experience the doubling of herself, because that will be part of her history, while you already know it wasn't part of yours. Do you follow me?
Yes, I do.
It isn't that you cannot time travel, but what you're doing when you're time traveling is going into parallel time tracks that may seem to be almost identical to the one you remember being in, but it actually isn't the same one, because you already know you weren't there. Because you didn't meet yourself, so you know that when you go back into the time, into the past, you will be going into a parallel reality and meeting another version of you in another reality altogether. And that will be normal for her reality, because then nothing will contradict the idea of what you say you've already experienced in your reality 24 hours ago. Now, here's an added twist, just to make things even more complex. You can, however, identify your consciousness from her point of view. You can, in essence, experience her parallel reality meeting herself. This is where it gets a bit sticky. It would seem as if the you think yourself to be were meeting the future you who had come back in time. But mechanically, technically, this is not what's happening. What's happening is the you are here that's deciding to go back in time, that meets up with the parallel reality you, will have already also decided to perceive the parallel reality experience through the parallel reality you, meeting up with the you that decided to go back in time. So it will seem as if you are having the experience, but you won't be in your time track. You will simply be seeing through the eyes of your parallel reality self and having her experience simultaneously to allow you the experience of what that would be like to have experienced meeting yourself from the future coming back into the past. Does any of this make any sense at all to you?
Yes.
Are you following this along?
Yes.
Are there going to be two over there or one over there?
Well, in fact, there is an infinite number. But again, when we are delineating the various time tracks, it will depend upon what arrangement you have made as to how many of yourselves or versions of yourself you will perceive at any one given axis point.
So the experiencer.
The experiencer, again, is all of you. But you will each feel that you are the only experiencer. In other words, every component will feel that it is the only experiencer, even though all of the components are experiencing simultaneously. And from the higher point of view would experience the whole idea at once of all the components' experiences. But that's another level. Did that make sense?
Getting clearer.
All right. I'll put it this way. Imagine that you have a twin sister. I'm still talking to the original questioner.
Yes.
All right. Imagine that you have a twin sister.
Got it.
Now, imagine that your twin sister finds out that you actually are triplets and finds another twin sister, a triplet sister. But you don't know about that yet. You follow me?
Yes.
All right. She has now met the third sister. She then tells you about the third sister and recounts her meeting so strongly that you feel like you are there. In fact, you go into it so strongly you actually imagine that you are there. You start to identify with your twin sister so strongly you actually literally experience all the sensations of what she experienced when she met the third sister. So you really feel like you experienced it too. Then the third sister tells you what it was like for her to meet your twin. And you experience it that fully from her point of view. You follow me?
Yes.
Now you have literally 3 points of view. Your original, your twin sisters, and the newly discovered triplets' point of view. All mixing into this one event of meeting each other. Now just take that to the degree to where it doesn't feel like there's any difference from you hearing about the experience or having the experience. You follow me?
Yes.
So while on one hand you can actually feel like you had the experience, on the other hand, mechanically, what's actually happened is you have heard about the experience. You know it exists. It's contained within your consciousness somehow and somewhere. And if you let it, it can actually become a true experience for you if you identify with it strongly enough, and that can create a reality for you. But that's how you need to look at the mechanics of what happened, rather than actually thinking that you per se, the you think yourself to be, were the sister that met the triplet. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So again, we have paradox. On one hand, you can have the experience in any way, shape, or form, and in every way, shape, or form that would seem to make no difference as to whether it was you or your sister that had the experience. And on the other hand, there is still a differentiation as to exactly what path was followed to bring the information to you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, to wrap it all up simply, can you time travel? Yes and no. However, here really is the bottom line, so that this entire very complicated story can be simplified and rendered down into a usable piece of information for you. You can have whatever experience you want to have, yes. Just that you understand that because of the way you have structured your reality, I have told you this story and explained this convoluted mechanism so that there isn't confusion in you. If and when you start having these experiences and you start seeing all sorts of strange contradictory vibrations going along, that you don't think you're going crazy. What you're seeing are the currents and the eddies of all the interacting and intersecting infinite probable reality directions of how this experience, this one event, is being experienced from all the different points of view and parallel reality time tracks, regardless of what you're experiencing from yours. Does that make sense?
Yes,
So, does that help you?
very much.
All right, now, here's something else to understand, and this is a little bit of a linear perspective since you... Anything else?
Yes, I have a second question.
Yes.
Do we lose track of our physical time?
In the way that you probably mean that, you can, yes. However, again, more specifically, when you have the experience on your planet of losing track of time, what you're actually doing is not creating it. Do you understand? When you don't experience the passage of time, it's not because really in most situations, though it's possible, yes, but in most situations it's not because you just weren't paying attention. It's that you're actually not creating as much time as you were before. When you live in the moment, because there actually is only one. There's only one moment. Everything you experience as a series of different moments is the same moment from a different point of view. There's only one now. Totally one moment. So when you live more in the moment, whatever that means to you experientially, you actually are creating less differentiation. You are allowing all moments to be the same moment from a different point of view. And when you don't experience the passage of time, you actually don't age. Do you follow?
Yes.
For whatever that amount of time is that you collapsed, you actually don't age that amount of time. That's why living more in the moment makes you seem ageless and eternal. Do you follow?
Yes.
Does that answer your question?
Very much so.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify that these questions that they're asking, I know are group questions,
Yes,
individual.
I know that.
I thought so, but we just want to make sure.
Oh, all right. Have you made sure?
Thank you, yes, I made sure.
All right. You must understand that from our perspective, no matter what format we participate in, all questions are individual and group questions. Otherwise, the group wouldn't be here.
Oh, I understand. Just
All right.
that,
Yes, I know.
yeah. If we ask dumb questions, it's all of us asking it. Collectively here.
Now, not meaning any judgment again whatsoever, and not meaning this really too literally, but again to make a point. The only dumb questions are the ones you don't ask.
Thank you.
You know, dumb as in silent? All right.